Man, oh man, if you guys can help me out and send a retweet and say, come join us, because I am going to talk about time management tonight, which is one of our famous life skills trainings that we do here at Collegiate Sports Advocate. A little plug for our company. We've been in business 10 years. We have 653 committed student athletes. We now have a very vibrant basketball guy. We're going to be doing some stuff for basketball too. So if you know anybody playing basketball, but we've been very famous in softball and baseball, and we do all sports. But we've been coming to social media because there's just so much going on out there. And in some of the basis of CSA, we've been teaching time management, communication skills, and accountability skills for 10 years. So again, I'm Sherry Naudine, the owner, and I want to introduce my co-speaker, Jackie, Dr. Jackie.
How's it going? I'm Jackie Wins. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a former D2 athlete in both soccer and lacrosse. No softball, but have been highly involved in women's sports and the overall softball landscape, specifically to collegiate softball. So excited to be here today.
I love it. Thank you so much. And don't be afraid to put your video on. I always have my, high and tight hairdo here. So I look like I played in the military. And again, thank you all for joining in. But I want to get right into time management because that's part of what I'm teaching, right? So I am a mother of three student athletes. I only had two go off to play in college, but raising three athletes that were each 2 years apart was like, being an octopus. You had an arm going a different direction every day. But I fell in love with the Google Calendar. So the basis of what we do is on the Google Calendar, and this is what I'm trying to get across. There is 168 hours in the week. When you've got a student athlete, or even like I've done this presentation to colleges, and they get so busy, it is still the number one reason why a student athlete fails in their first year is because of just not having the tools to organize the busy, the crazy that happens when they get there. So I think it's really important to have these kind of life skills. And what I've found out in this next generation, this last 10 years, is that they're teaching a paper agenda system, or a lot of families have a whiteboard. Well, here's the reality: you can't take the whiteboard with you to the softball field, to the baseball field, to the court, right? You can't take it with you. So we're teaching a Google Calendar, we're teaching a notes app, and then we go through the things that are super important, which is getting rid of redundancy. How many times you are sent a text and you look at it 5 or 6 times before you do something with it, right? So we always say, whatever it is that comes your way, handle it immediately or do something with it, right? So don't just let it keep coming, because every single time you see it again and again, it's time wasted. So here's a tip that I've done forever. And if you saw my calendar, you'd think it's a hot mess. But if you get a text and it needs action, it needs something you need to do later, put it on your calendar. Or if it's something you really need to take more time with, like you got to, write an article about it, I send it to my email. So I use my email as my to-do list, and I do my texting as the things that I got to handle right away. And if I can't handle it once, then it goes on my calendar. So some hot tips there for you today. Jackie, any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, it's about finding what's right for you. So for some people, it's, Post-its. For some people have to write on their darn hand all over it. Whatever it is for you, you want to figure that out before you step on campus. And that's what I really pushed for the high school athletes. Like, it's not going to be as simple. You're going to be dealing with life. You're going to be dealing with sports. You're going to be dealing with your academics, and it's all on you. So finding it out now is a lot easier.
And that's what we've done. We're like, man, the stickies are great. I actually took a bunch of addresses the other day because I was sending gifts to our girls and guys that finished our yoga program. I had all their addresses on stickies, and then I got to the postal place and I couldn't find all my stickies. They had fallen down in the car, So I was like, there we are again, Sherry Naudine. Go to your notes app on your phone, right? And that way it's always with you. And it's historical data, right? It doesn't go away. The next thing is I teach you how to go in and actually write down, what do you do? Start on a Sunday, and what do you do? How many hours do you sleep? How many hours do you work? How many hours do you do homework, cooking, cleaning, I told the parents, let's talk about chores. How much time does it take you to do laundry and make breakfast and do all these things that you got to do for yourself? And then you go, okay, if I sort that out, then I really do have time to do my laundry, right? And I was blowing it off and I didn't think I had time to do my laundry. But when you recognize you have 168 hours in the week, you start there, you put it on a spreadsheet, and you start subtracting the hours that you spend each week doing whatever it is you do. And when I did this for a junior college group, they were like, but I work and I this and I that. And I was like, okay, so then we prioritize what has to be done, what doesn't have to be done. Well, I want to go hang out with my friends. Well, you should, but after the things that have to be done are done. So we our goal in the program we teach is to get rid of the paper planners and get rid of the things that get staying behind. And I always say it's for the parents. The quicker you can wean them off of the calendar in the family to where you're doing it or your family's doing it, the quicker your kid is going to have independence. And I have a great testimonial, and I'm going to tag her on this email. She was checking in at North Carolina. She's a freshman softball player at North Carolina. And her dad sent me the text and he said, she was sitting down with the academic counselor, and the counselor said, hey, let's schedule for the next meeting. And they said she reached in her bag, grabbed her phone, and set the appointment. And he was like so proud of her. He texted me and said, yeah, we had a sharing moment. She's sufficient. She's excellent. And there was a young man playing a different sport sitting next to her. And he made some comment like, oh, I'm going to have to call my mom. And they were like, yeah, bravo. Our kid is independent from such a silly little thing as learning, to be efficient and independent in their calendars. It was also brought to me when I started doing it. It was Coach Hutch, who's retired, one of my favorites. And I said, what is it that a recruiting service can do in addition to helping you get good student athletes? And she goes, man, Sherry, these kids are dropped off and they don't know how to do anything. They have to call their parents to get stuff done. And I said, they don't have calendars. They don't, have agendas even back then. And she's like, no, the parents are doing everything for them. And I was like checking myself going, I kind of do everything for my kids too. So, okay, I gotcha. But I thought that was a good message to put out to all of us busy families, right? We've got to teach them this independence. So some checklists that we've gone through with student athletes is, man, you got to write down how much sleep, because sleep is very important, especially as a college athlete. You're physically going to be challenged. Write down when you're eating, when you're cooking, when you're going to go get your groceries, right? These are things that the travel time in the car, the travel time to practice, individual workouts, individual lessons, how much you've got to plan homework. You've got to separate that time and have time for homework. And then I always say, what if there's a pop test? Jackie, go for it.
I always, especially these like current athletes, there's a lot of well, okay, I know I need to do this, but why? So what Sherry's sort of like explaining the why for that is because once you get to the collegiate landscape, you have to maximize your time. So you can't maximize your time if you don't know how you're spending your time. And so in order to review and look at everything, you need to chart these things and you need to identify, how can you be more efficient and maximize that extra time or move things, so that you can be successful in all areas, not just softball, but academically in life.
Amazing. And that's exactly it. We're building up to this is why, because you got to know where you're spending it. And I even put in things like go have fun. Make sure you put some time for fun. You're in college, right? Or you're in high school. You should, have extracurricular activities. Social media. We actually ask our student athletes, so parents, if you're on here, or student athletes, check yourself, screenshot your time that you're on the phone, your screen time. You're going to be shocked. It's about 7 hours a day. And I was like, if I had 7 more hours in a day, could you imagine what I could do with myself? Right. So I think it's important for them to understand how much time they're spending and where they're spending it. Is it productive use of their phone time? Because our phones are a very, productive tool nowadays, and especially during school. But then they measure the non-productive hours, and then they sort it out. Hey, I want a Netflix binge, I've got a new show on Hulu, some extra prepping. Like I think the kids that are really, really taking on time management are doing a lot of food prep. They're prepping their important meals because they have specific diets that they need to adhere to be better athletes. Parents, I would tell you to do the same thing on a Sunday night. Do meal prep for the week. I think almost all of us as organized families have to make a list to go to the grocery store, right? So definitely do that. But add it up, see how much time you actually have left over. I think you're going to be shocked. And then decide if you don't think you have enough time or you're spending too much time at something else, then that's when you start to do that pivot, that twist and turn. So a typical, end of week was they got about 40 hours left over. It was anywhere from 25 to 40, depending on if they were in college or if they're in high school now, how they're spending their time. And, a lot of them that don't drive, they're using their time not driving to organize and coordinate and do the things for the week. So, some of the other tools that we run into in time management is email. Especially because I'm in the recruiting side of it, there's a lot of emailing going on, and they have to address it. They have to plan the time to actually send the emails. They have to plan the time to receive it, to get it back, and to do something with it. So they've got to leave that space in there to go back in to their communication tools. And Jackie, I think you'll agree here, as you're in the youth environment too. But it's not just emails. They have a messenger for every app out there. That messenger gets confusing. What do you think about that, Jackie?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of today's world, right? And so now we're navigating this consistent messaging and keeping that organized as well based on different coaches. I think the most important aspect of that is don't go into anything blind. Don't be sending emails that are, not well written, and, you're rushing because you don't have time. So things have like ridiculous mistakes. Part of the aspect of growing in that area is that is communication when you get to the next level, right? You're communicating with professors, with coaches, things of all that. So email needs to be a part of it. Sometimes I get some high schoolers that are like, "Oh, I didn't check my email." That's part of your life now. So all of
Yeah.
these things need to become a priority amongst all your other priorities, right? And so by doing this, you're sort of understanding how to balance the scale.
Yeah, I did a presentation to a bunch of eighth grader baseballers, and I said something about email, and their faces went like this. I said, "You do have emails, right? You are answering emails," and they're like, "No," and I was like, "Oh my God, another generation's coming up. Here they come, right?" A couple more tips on this is at the end of the night, as you're brushing your teeth, get your notes app out. Get the things in your head that are going off and put it down. Like tomorrow, I need to check, my messengers. I need to double make sure I don't have a test this week. Whatever those thoughts are that are rumbling around in your head as you're getting ready to go to bed, then put it down on your notes app. Get it prepared, and off your brain so you can sleep. And then when you get up in the morning and you're going out there and you look at your calendar and you say, "What's my day look like?" Oh yeah, I need to call Jackie and see if she wants to do time management tonight. It's things like that you can use your calendar for. It doesn't have to just be appointments or things you show up for. It can actually be a list or a task. And there are other aspects. You can get way into some of these applications like the calendar, but I literally use the calendar for my tasks and my actual appointments. So, but before you go to sleep, get it off your head. That way you'll get better sleep. And then again, get rid of that planner, put it to the side. Anything you want to write on it. And I do have a note tablet here on my desk, but it's not things that I need to do. It's notes while I'm talking on the phone. And then um, share your calendar with your family. This is something I thought was foreign to a lot of people. I was surprised they're not sharing their calendar. So if you've got a student athlete and you're using a Google Calendar, you can share it to mom and dad's calendars. I think you can even share across platforms, even into an Outlook or to a Microsoft application. So double check me on that because I tend to do Google for everything. But the other time waster is repeating the same task over and over again instead of just do it, right? Reading texts or emails over and over again, reading messages over and over again. So the tip there again is handle it, do something with it, handle it immediately or put it on your calendar to handle later. Or if it's something more in depth, then put it in your email to remind you. Driving in the car was the other tip I gave out. And then when you have the spare time, manage your friends too. I always say there's always a friend who's a friend sucker, a time sucker, right? You always got that one friend that just wants to chit chat and text while you're doing homework. I have to do this a lot. I have to turn my phone over and shove it in a corner when I'm doing something like right now. I'm not answering messages because we get distracted and we get taken off our task. When we get distracted and we go off task, we got to come back in and revisit it again. So it's that redundancy that's happening again and again. So ask your student athletes or yourself, check your screen time, see what it is, and then set yourself a goal to lower it. Mine was 13 hours, by the way, but I use mine as a business, right? This is what I do all day. But see if you can lessen the amount of wasteful time. And then when you do go to social media and you want to come to TikTok or Twitter, you do it when everything's done versus letting things pile up and then you panic and at the end of the week you don't have enough time to do what you need to do. So uh, I like cloud services. Again, I like the Google platform because so much of the student athlete is on the go. Their phone breaks, something happens, it's not a crisis. They can go and sit in the library and log into their platforms and get documents out of the drive. And, so find a way to organize the tools that you have all day into a cloud environment. I know many of you have the iCloud services. If you're comfortable with that, that's great. But have a product that you can log into, even if your device is broken or you've got some of the reason why you need to log in someplace else. But manage your social media, use your notes app, use that Google Calendar, answering email and answering text. Those are about the busiest things. Now, I'm not going to get too technical because I usually have to ask my own children how to do these things. But what I've been told is you can set timers in your phone for rewarding yourself. Like if you're done and you're doing a great job, then you can set up a timer to do an hour's worth of social media, and it will actually buzz when it's over. Jackie, I knew you were going to help me out here.
um, I always think there is a timer that it's called, I believe, the Pomodoro timer. And I could put a link to that. I can comment on the space later. And basically, it just chunks time for you. And so then there are breaks, then those are timed. And often in school and even in life, when I'm just feeling too a little bit all over the place, but I need to get tasks done, that it's a free resource online. And it's something that a lot of people, once they get started on it, really benefit from. So learning to work within, your needs of breaks and things like that is also important. Not everybody can sit and do 2 hours through. So find out how your brain works so that this way you can complete it all.
I love it. And back to the Google Calendar, we actually put it up on our student athletes profile page, and that's because the college coaches like it. We use it to drive coaches to them. And one of the things I noticed is they start right away with a 45-minute time management training is they don't dig in as much as they should, even from the training. So we kind of check back in and we get things going because what the coaches want to see is that they're already structured with their workouts, they're already structured with their meal planning, they're already structured with their homework, and they're creating priorities that are going to create good habits when they get to college. There's not a coach in the country that wants that Friday phone call to say their kid is ineligible for academics. So this is the stuff that we're teaching now to get them in the habit, and we're engaging the parents in it too. So always schedule it, adjust it, be willing to adjust it. Nothing's written in stone, and update your calendar during the week. As something new happens, write it down. It doesn't just happen on Sunday night when you're doing the planning. And then utilize those notes apps and other tools that are integrated right there. And set deadlines for yourself. Don't be afraid to hold yourself accountable. Like, I got to have my homework done by Wednesday night. Set yourself that deadline, but plan how to get there. And, don't beat yourself up if it didn't. Adjust and pivot and move and figure out, how much time you need to set aside for future things. So, I'm just looking at all the things. I even have a young lady that put in Bible study and she put in a Rosti. She had training for, physical therapy in there. She really detailed out. She even put dishes. I'm like, man, this mom needs a 5-star pat on the back for that one, man. The kid even has her chores in there. And I thought that was really, really a good use of a tool. And she's at Mississippi State studying engineering, so she's doing really, really well. In fact, there was a big article about her recently. So, and then This is another one that I teach in communication, but it also has to do with time management. If somebody texts you, text them back or acknowledge it, right? If somebody emails you, you email them back. If somebody calls you, you call them back. If they DM you, you DM them back. We call it two-way communication. And I just had this question today by a client. They said, well, I didn't know if I should do that if the coach wants me to, respond on email. I said, respond the way the decision maker contacted you. That's a big nugget for you today. So we called it in communications. I spent 28 years in telecom, which is the preferred method of communication for the decision maker. So think of the college coach if you're in the recruiting process to interact the way that they interact. There's rules for anybody that's a 27 or below that the coaches can only email you. So and there's sometimes you don't really need to email them back. They're just inviting you to camp. They really can't interact with you. They can only shoot you a camp invite. They can only do those types of things. So when you're done with the email, delete it. Don't have an email inbox with 3,000 inbox in it. It should have, mine is 40 or 50, and they're all things I need to do. But delete it, because if you're using Gmail, you can delete it and still pull it up by putting a keyword in it, or create a file folder for it and file it away as something important to keep. But if you're revisiting and touching those inbox emails over and over again, it's just redundancy and wasted time. So acknowledge it, reply, and decide if you need to put it on your calendar for a future touch. Any thoughts on any of that, Jackie?
Yeah, I think you have to think the transition a lot for recruits is, you know, is that email etiquette is different when you graduate right from high school, and your coaches that you're communicating with and whoever else, they are in that next chapter, so you have to rise to the occasion and speak to them with this same level of respect. So you have to almost think that you are beyond where you currently are. So if you're doing what everybody else is doing and just, "Oh, okay, whatever, the coach emailed me back, they'll come see me or whatever," it's not it's not good enough. You need to ensure that you are always, and this is just a life lesson, right, where you are always rising to the occasion in communication, because if you don't, then it can actually be a really big turnoff, and it could lose you a lot of different opportunities.
Definitely. Thank you. One of my pet peeves always comes up in this: no ghosting. Ghosting is so unacceptable. And I know in the college interaction world, a lot of people feel they get ghosted. There's not only rules about it, but sometimes they're not very good at the emailing and the answering and doing things like that. So I think it's important to kind of put the message out that ghosting's not okay. If somebody messages you, you respond. If somebody, just give that common courtesy. You're going to be shocked on how far that goes. If they can't speak to you, they're going to let you know they can't speak to you. And in the same, the college coaches, man, there's got to be a way for them to let you know that they hear you. Yes, Jackie.
We did have a question.
Okay.
In the comments, it says, "I have a 28 that is getting camp invites by text now. Is this a new thing?"
They are not supposed to text if they are D1 or D2. Now, D2 might have recently changed. D3 can do anything. The current method is only email, to my understanding. Now, if they changed something today I didn't know about. If she wants to send me that text, I can vet it out and ask very specifically. But they might be pressing the line there because they are inviting for a camp. But I would be real uncomfortable if you got people connecting on a cell phone already to an individual student athlete long before their time. It's not a typical, very professional thing to do. Even some of them dipping into the DMs is a little awkward, but it's more acceptable now. But the rules that I follow, and I'm very conservative with it because I do what the college coaches want, which is email only. They're allowed to invite you to a camp. They used to be able to invite you to fill out their questionnaire, but they can't even do that. So if there is a questionnaire on their site and you believe that you are a recruitable person for that, college, then fill it out. If you're just going to your dream school and trying to get on their mailing list and trying to get, flyers in the mail to hold up to social media, that's not recruiting and it's not helping you get exposure. So I would be curious if you want to screenshot that to me on my DM. I'm the one that's CSA at athletes. I can answer back and be more specific. But I saw a D3 kid get committed today, and she's a 2026. So they don't usually dive in that, or we had one the other day that's an NAIA. So they don't normally dive in that early, but texting a kid directly, that's interesting. I haven't seen that. They'll usually go to your coach. They'll usually go to somebody like myself that's representing your student athlete for a little bit more of a professional interaction. So in the junior colleges, they don't have rules about anything, and they're pretty aggressive. I love the junior colleges, but they've got to get 15 kids a year, so they do a lot of recruiting. They're very good at recruiting. They're excellent at training, and they don't have any rules. So great question. Limits, set yourself limits for chit chat, set yourself limit for social medias. Be your own accountability coach. Don't make it be your parents. My kids used to go, "Oh, mom, you're just griping at me." Well, I don't have to gripe if you do what I ask you to do, right? Same thing. Just do it so you don't have to bother yourself with it and you don't get yourself in a fix. One of the best testimonials one of our one of our college students gave, she went to Cornerstone. She's married with kids now. She said, do it before you need to do it, before it's a crisis, and don't wait to the last minute, because that last minute may not be there. Something changes with your softball schedule, or, something happens with school and you've run yourself out of time. So do it when you do have the time and don't procrastinate. And I thought that was a great advice. So procrastination, stress, it will eliminate stress. It will allow you to multitask because you've got capture of all the things you need to do. Start earlier to plan it. These are all my checklist things. Learn to say no to things that aren't productive, that aren't helping you, that are not of value. So that person that's chit-chatting too much and texting too much with you, if they're not, driven and doing the same goals, then, you might want to chit-chat with more productive people. And then plan the success. And I'm going to leave it here and wrap up with any more questions. Plan your success. Success is not accidental. So we're big planners at CSA. We're very intentional at CSA. And we are very accountable. We hold the student athletes as accountable as we do ourselves. So hopefully this was some great information for you guys. I know it was a little off topic, but we held a pretty good audience here. And Jackie, any closing thoughts? She's always a great co-host.
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that often get overblown, and in terms of like, goes over their heads, because it's not something that is easily done. You have to put in the hard work. And to all the athletes here, I always say, if you want to get wherever you plan on going, it takes that hard work. So it's up to you at this point whether you want to listen or let it blow over your head. But if you can take anything from here, look and review your time management on how you can do it better, because I promise, even at my age, it's not done yet. It always can get better.
That's great. Well, thank you guys all for coming. I always try to keep it to a half hour. Sometimes we go over, but I'm open to topics for next week. I always kind of wait and see what the flavor of the week is, but I'll take suggestions. You can always DM me, and just have a productive week. See if you can invest in a couple little tips that we gave out today. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.